All right, in problem 17-10, we're working with predetermined overhead rates. And so it's given us a bunch of information here for this machine shop. And so it's given us all these estimated costs. And so we need to come up with an estimated overhead rate. So these aren't actual costs that are going into factory overhead. We're coming up with our predetermined estimate that we're going to apply to jobs that will go out of factory overhead into work in process. So we have this table over here with all of the categories listed over here, and then we already pre-enter the categories for each one. Now we just have to enter the dollar amounts. So we have engine parts, 875,000. Direct labor, 660,000. Shop supplies 10. Got advertising cost at 22,000. Office salaries at 73,500, and office depreciation 8,600. So let's see, our totals match here. We're in good shape. And so for this problem, we're just trying to come up with our overhead rate. So the only numbers we care about right now are the overhead cost. So if we take our overhead cost and paste them down here, so we have total overhead cost of 220,000. And then what we do is we add it to calculate the total number of direct labor hours, because that's how we're going to apply that factory overhead rate. Is, for every 1 hour of labor, we're going to apply essentially 1 hour of factory overhead. And so to get that, it tells us what our total labor cost is, and it also tells us what the shop labor rate is. So if we just take our total labor cost divided by the hours, the total labor cost divided by the hourly rate, it will give us the direct labor hours. So if we take the total factory overhead cost divided by the hours, we're going to get an overhead rate of $10 per hour. All right, so for problem 17, 2A, and so what's done is essentially given us a bunch of schedules and information, and it is going to ask us to prepare some journal entries. We're going to do some T accounts, and then do a schedule of unfinished goods. So I'm just going to shrink this a little bit. Hopefully that's not too small. So the first thing we do in part one is just wants us to do some journal entries. And so we just need to go through these and do some entries. So the first one, so materials purchased on account, 29,800. So we bought materials, which means we're increasing materials inventory. Actually, I think that is mislabeled. It says wages payable. We're not doing wages, we're buying materials, so that's going to be accounts payable. Alright, so in part B, so we have materials requisitioned and factory labor used. So in this situation right here, so in the first one we're buying materials, and in the second one we're going to apply materials, wages, and overhead to work in process. So what we want to do here is we want to figure out first what goes in work in process and what goes to factory overhead. And so what we're going to want to do is we want to add up all of the material and the direct labor that are going to go into work in progress. And so that's going to be all of the direct materials and all of the direct labor. So if we look at this, all of this, because job by job, so it's all direct materials until we get down to this last one for general factory use. So we have direct materials, and this last one's going to be factory overhead. Same situation with labor. We have direct labor because it's directly related to the job until we get down to this last one, and that's going to be factory overhead. So let's go and add up all of the materials first. So we have 2960, 3620, 2400, 8100, 5100, and 3750. That's going to be all the direct materials. Now we want to add up all of the direct labor costs. So that's going to be 2775, 3750, 1875, 6860, 5250, and 3340. So we have total work in process, which is the sum of direct materials and direct labor of 49,780. Now we need to add in the factory overhead cost. And so that's just going to be the two that we left off down here that's for general use. So we have 1080 and 4100. And so since we're putting goods into work in process and we're putting goods into factory overhead, we need to balance those out. So if direct materials goes into work in process, that means it comes out of materials. And so that is just going to be the sum of all the materials, including factory overhead. Because what we're doing here is we're taking it out of direct materials and this 1800 out of direct materials and into factory overhead. So since we already typed the numbers in once, no sense doing it again. We'll just copy and paste it over. Plus we have to add in our 1080. So this 2710 is the sum of all these right here. Same deal with factory labor. We've already entered the numbers in once. Let's just copy them, paste it in, and then add in our last one here. It's 27,950. Well, let's just put a formula down here just to make sure that our journal entries balance. Never want to get out of balance. So, yep, those two equal each other, so we're good, we're in balance. So the next one is factory overhead incurred on account. So when we incur factory overhead, we're actually writing checks. So we're not applying it to the goods, but we're increasing it just like we would increase direct materials when we buy materials. So it said we did that for 5,500. Part D, so we had depreciation on the machinery, so we're booking depreciation. So that's, you don't pay for depreciation, but this is in essence the same thing. We're incurring it, not applying it. So we're going to enter that in 1980. So part E, so factory overhead rate is $54 an hour per machine hour. Here are the machine hours used. So we used a total of 228 hours. and it says that the factory overhead rate is 54. So now we're not incurring factory overhead, but we're applying what we have. Okay, part F. So we have jobs 301, 2, 3, and 5 have been completed. And so to do this one, so what we're going to do is we're going to take these jobs, 1, 2, 3, and 5, and we're going to move it out of work in process and into finished goods. So just to sum up, make this easy, just we have this little table off to the side. We have the jobs that are completed, 1, 2, 3, and 5. And so we will just enter, let's see here, the direct material costs, which we're getting from over here. So we have $29.60, $36.20, $2,451. Same for the direct labor hours. We're getting that from right here. 2,775, 3,750, and 1,875. And then job 305 is, let's see, 52.50. So when we're moving goods from work in process into finished goods, that's going to be the total manufacturing cost, which is direct material, direct labor, and factory overhead. So now we just have to apply our overhead rate. So now we just plug in, that's going to be our machine hours times our predetermined rate. So we're going to grab our machine hours over here. So job 301 is 25 hours. Job 2 is 36 hours. Job 303 is 30 hours, and job 5 is 40 hours. Already plugged in the predetermined overhead rate here. So now we have our hours times our rate gives us our factory overhead applied. And then we have our total, which is going to sum up the direct materials, direct labor, and factory overhead for all 4 of these jobs. Total cost $34,804. So that's what we're moving. It's been finished out of work in process into finished goods. And then the very last one on part G. So we have jobs that were shipped to the customers and billed. So we finished and sold 301, 302, and 303 for these amounts respectively. So when we sell goods, we have to do essentially 2 journal entries. We have to book what we sold, so we book the revenue and receivable, and then we have to book the related cost and cost of goods sold, taking it out of finished goods. So if we just add up what we sold them for, so we did job 301 at $82.50, job 302 at $11,200, and job 303 at $15,000. So that's going to be our receivable and our sales revenue. So now that these have been sold, now we have to apply the cost of each one of those goods. And so thankfully we already use this little schedule over here to calculate the cost for each one of these jobs. But this is doing jobs 1, 2, 3, and 5. But what we sold was just 1, 2, and 3. So if we sum up the cost related to those 3 jobs, we have $22,294. Alright, so the next things it's asked us to do is it wants us to do T accounts for work in process and finished goods. And then we want to prepare a schedule of unfinished goods. So no problem. So we'll go here and just shrink our little notes just so we can see this a little bit better. So I'll do it like this. So we have to do T accounts. So we're going to do T accounts for these two accounts. So we've already done the journal entries, so the T accounts are really easy. So if we just go in here and enter the amounts from the journal entries. So we have work in progress from part B. So we can just do equals there. And then down in part E, we have a work in process. And then in part F, we have a work in process, but this is a credit. And so now for finished goods, in part F, we have whoops, I put in the wrong one there. That should be from G. And then for finished goods, 34,000. And then part G down here, we have finished goods of 22,294. So our balance in our work in process account is 27,288, and our balance in our finished goods account is 12,510. And so now it's going to ask us to put together a schedule of the balance of unfinished goods. And so the jobs that have not been finished yet, so it told us that we'd finish jobs 1, 2, 3, and 5. That means the jobs that are unfinished are 4 and 6. So we just plug in our direct materials from this schedule like we did with the other ones that were finished. And plug in our direct labor. And then we'll go down here and plug in our machine hours. And so according to our schedule, the total unfinished goods is 27,288, which thankfully that matches what our work in process is. So the work in process is our unfinished goods of 27,288. So these match up. We're in good shape. And we have one job 305, which we finished, but we just didn't sell it yet. And so this job it's the hours of 40. So this job has a cost of 12,510, which is the balance of our finished goods account of 12,510. So perfect, we all match up. We are in good shape. All right, then for our last problem, we have 17.3a. So what we're going to do here is we're going to fill out a job order cost sheet. And so we have this Remnant Carpet Company. They sell and install carpet. And then so we're going to come down here and they're going to give us estimates on cost. And then if we go down a little bit further, it's going to give the actual tickets and time used of what it actually took to get the job done. So we're going to take this information and we're going to go over to our job cost sheet, and first we're going to fill in the estimate, which is this top section, and then we'll fill in the actual cost down here. So first, if we just fill out the estimate for the direct materials, and so it tells us that we're estimating roughly 200 meters at a cost of $35 per meter. So 200 times 35 is 7,000. So that's all the direct material we have to estimate. And then for direct labor, we're guessing that it's going to take 16 hours at $20 an hour. So we have 16 times 20. So we're estimating labor cost to be $320. And then factory overhead, it just gives us $240. So our estimate that we're telling these guys that the job is going to be $7,560. So now we can go over here and look at the actual tickets that were used for this job and figure out what our actual cost were. So we had two materials requisitions for direct materials. We had requisition number 112 and 114. And so 112 was for 140 meters at $35. And so that is going to be 140 times 35. And then we did 68 meters at 35. So the actual direct material cost was $7,280 compared to what we estimated of $7,000. Then we can go look at our time tickets. And so we had two time tickets. We had H10 and H11. Put a little space there. Actually, the spaces were bothering me here. Gotta make it look a little bit better. So our direct labor, we had 10 hours at $20 an hour. And 10 hours at $20 an hour again. So that's going to be 10 times 20 for both of these, and then it gives us our actual factory overhead of 300. So what we've done is we've taken this job, we did a quote, we did an estimate on what we thought we were going to spend, and then through actual direct material requisitions, direct labor time cards, and through a factory overhead allocation, we come up with our actual costs that we're going to allocate to this job of $7,980. So I hope these examples are helpful. If you guys have any questions on these, please feel free to shoot me an email. So, and also if you guys have something, you guys have any suggestions, or want to see something differently, please let me know. So I'm just trying to put together something that hopefully that makes the homework just a little bit more, a little bit easier to do. So, the purpose of homework isn't, to, cause a bunch of struggles, but it's to learn. So hopefully these are good learning aids for you. So, anyway, I guess I will talk to you in chapter 18. Thanks.